Hello, everyone. Really excited to host this final Q&A for our delightful community over at Republic. It's been an amazing journey for our team over the past few months. We expected this to be a very short and sweet campaign for $50,000. Ended up being a longer campaign where we now raised over three times that amount. So we are really overwhelmed by the response, and we are very excited about the next phase of Popularium and Chaos Agents. So we wanted to give our community at Republic a final opportunity to ask any questions that they had of myself, of Richard, of John, before we wrapped up our campaign, which is basically wrapping up on April 30th at the end of the month. So with that, what we'll do is just go over a couple of quick summary points, I guess, about what we can expect from Chaos Agents and Popularium in the next few weeks. Because as you probably know, if you have been following our updates, that we had a really good session at the Game Developers Conference in the end of March 23rd-ish, which culminated with the first gold trial for our second World Championship, which meant that we got our first qualifiers for the grand finals. And we actually have a lot more coming up over the next couple of weeks. So if any one of you is in Boston, Los Angeles, or New York, we would love to see you. So let me just give you a quick high level on what you can expect from us in the next few weeks as we wrap this campaign up. And then I'm going to hand off to John to ask the questions that we have been collecting from our community, as well as the ones that come in live through the Q&A. So with that, to jump in, as I mentioned, we just wrapped up our many events at the Game Developers Conference and the follow-ups at the end of March. So what that was highlighted by was, first and foremost, as I mentioned, we had our second Chaos Agents World Championship running around the GDC event. At the GDC event itself, we had a number of hands-on demos. We had several people come in, many investors, publishers come in to check out the games themselves. It was really awesome to be able to show off the visual improvements and UX improvements that we have made over the past few months, thanks to your support from Republic. After that, we transitioned into a series of events at various board game stores across the Bay Area, where we both sponsored prizes for Friday Night Magic and also had Richard call in live, which was a big surprise for a lot of folks playing Magic. That was a really cool event. And then finally, we wrapped this up with the first gold trial, which is the first sort of finals before the grand finals of the championship. And you might have seen a sneak peek of the highlights, which we will basically launch as a final sort of goodbye video for the Republic campaign. But it's a really cool story where we basically had the finals ended up being sort of one of our most experienced players who's a former champion against someone who had just come in that day itself to support her kids, basically. So it was really cool to see the way that trial unfolded. And we also had Richard come in and do a bunch of Q&As, which was awesome to see on the big screen. And what's more is that we have a lot more of that coming up. That was just the start. That event was so successful that we essentially decided to move to a model where we are running Chaos Agents-based events on a regular basis. So on a cadence of somewhere between 5 to 6 weeks, we are going to have an event which will have a physical component and an online component. And what that does is that it helps us, A, focus our community towards these milestones that they can look forward to. A. B is that it gives us an engagement lift every time we do one of these things. So our metrics sort of go up, and these are very inexpensive for us to run. So it's actually a really strong way for us to both acquire users as well as engage users who we have already acquired. And then finally, what this really, really helps us with is to get our product direction focused also, because it makes it very clear as to what do we need to ship to our players, what do we need to have in the game to be able to support the next major event. And blended with that, we have now started sending out invites to the alpha pretty regularly. We have about 100 to 200 invites going out now every week. So now we can start monitoring how our long-term retention metrics look before we sort of ratchet up the numbers to basically go from, as we have mentioned, from about 1,000 overall users to about 5,000 active monthly users, which is the next big goal for us. So in terms of the events, we have two big dates coming up, May 10th and May 15th. On May 10th, we will have actually two events simultaneously, one in Boston and one in Los Angeles, where both are going to have pods of people playing in the World Championship. But for the Boston event, we are also going to be announcing a partnership for a key companion application experience for Chaos Agents that actually a lot of Republic community investors have already asked us about. So there will be some really interesting things to look forward to around that announcement. We'll have a demo of that companion experience in Boston also. But the big focus obviously is going to be the second gold trial. And along with that, we will have a series of qualifier events, both for sort of streamers, and for the first time, we will actually give people permission to stream Chaos Agents with the disclaimer, obviously, that it's still quite early in development. However, we will have streamers and we will have special events to help streamers qualify so that they can build excitement for their audience and potentially even bring their audience along. And the other very exciting thing is we will also have a series of events for what we're calling friends and family teaching events. That also includes everyone here from Republic who are our investors. Basically, what we want to do is make sure that we have a way for anyone in our immediate ecosystem to learn the game quickly and to have a fast track so that they can get into the championship and be a part of all the excitement that's coming up. The second piece is going to be on May 15th. So we are doing a largish event in Brooklyn on May 15th, which will be Gold Trial number 3 and then the grand finals. So we will be crowning the world champion or champions of Chaos Agents on May 15th. So if you are in the New York area, we are planning to have a really fun event there. It'll be a really cool space. So if you're in Boston or in LA on May 10th, or if you're in New York on May 15th, please let us know. There is a possibility that we'll have a West Coast event also on May 15th. We haven't decided that yet because we have a lot to plan out for right now. But there is a possibility that we'll also have a West Coast event on May 15th in case that is of interest to anyone here. So please join us. We will have more information about how to sign up quite soon. But the easiest way is just put a comment into the Republic discussion section, and we'll make sure that we get you an invite. So that will also be accompanied by a couple of press announcements, which initially we wanted to accompany with GDC, but we saw that with the news cycle being pretty packed during GDC, we could actually make a better impact around the SPAC East timeframe. So we'll be announcing the alpha expansion as well as our partnership with Microsoft and the Azure team at that time. And then finally, as I mentioned, we are in the thick of the World Championship excitement. So that is a big focus for us and the players as well as the community in general. We have these 3 gold trials of up to 64 players each. Each gold trial can yield up to 3 winners. For the first gold trial, we actually had 2 winners because one of them won 2 win conditions. And then the winners of the gold finals will play in a one-off grand finals, and the winners there are going to be the champions. So the key dates are May 10th and May 15th. And if you are interested, we also will have a number of these teaching sessions to help you qualify. So that's what you can expect right after the Republic campaign closes. That'll be our focus. We have published our roadmap through the end of this year at the previous Q&A that we had, and that's still our focus in terms of getting to the further alpha expansion, going from about 5,000 actives, which is our current goal, to 10 to 15,000 actives by the late fall timeframe, so that we can head into early access and beta, which will also be the start of our revenue generation and strong footing. And just after the Republic campaign ends, we will also be going into our Series A financing, publisher partnership discussions, and as I mentioned, an interesting partnership revenue opportunity that's from a companion experience to Chaos Agents. So with that, I will hand off to Jon for any questions that he has collected from the community before this session or during. Jon, please take it away.
Great. Thank you, Arka. Kyle, if we haven't opened questions yet, please open them. We got a couple questions pre-submitted that we'll go through. And so the first one is a question for you, Arka. You talked a little bit about the upcoming milestones for Chaos Agents, but what is the future growth and financing plan for Popularium and Chaos Agents?
Great question, actually. And that really nicely segues from what I was saying earlier, which is right now, as far as our growth plan is concerned, we have a very well-defined set of metrics that we are trying to get to. And obviously, that boils down for a game like ours to active users. What that means for us from a definition standpoint is that the player is usually playing at least one session every week, ideally more than that. So right now, our goal is to get to 5,000 active users per month. And ideally, that leads to a pretty high concurrency rate, which is the number of players playing together. So those are the two goals for us, is to get to 5,000 actives and to get to a pretty strong concurrency rate, where the test would be that, okay, if I log into Chaos Agents on a random day at a random time, do I find a fun game to play with fun people? And that's sort of what we are aiming towards now. The next goal is going to be for us to go from that 5,000 actives to about 10 to 15,000 actives, which sounds like, a lot. But in our case, the goal from the first 5,000 would be to figure out all of the key levers that we can pull that can then help us smoothen the process, where then we are kind of on a rapid acquisition path. And as we've mentioned, we already have tens of thousands of people signed up to play the alpha. However, we are not resting on that. We are actively looking at experimenting with the marketing channels that will bring us new alpha signups, will get us new wish lists before the early access, and will ideally convert to that day one revenue. Along with that, though, we are also looking at what does the long-term financing for Popularium look like. So with the Republic campaign, as well as the additional around $300,000 that we've brought in from investors who are existing investors, as well as people who have done direct investments, we are now on a strong footing pretty much for the rest of this year in terms of the current burn rate and such that we have. However, it's going to be very critical for us to kind of take the step from a small 10 to 15% operation to a slightly larger operation if we are to support the game as a full-fledged live service game that is serving 15,000 plus active users. So that's what we need to start prepping for right now. So our goal is going to be to essentially make sure that we have enough financing to get not only to early access, but to the entire retail launch of the game, which for us looks like early access, if we follow the timeline that I described earlier, is around the end of this year. And then full retail launch is probably about at least a year out from there. But as we have discussed, revenue generation pretty much starts at early access, and retail launch is more a marketing milestone than anything else, where we feel like, okay, we can now go from a few 50,000, 100,000, few 100,000 folks to a much broader group, which fingers crossed we'll be able to get with early access. So in terms of financing, right after the end of the Republic campaign, we'll be moving into a roadshow for our Series A, which we have been planning for a little while now. as well as into partnership discussions with various publishers, distributors. We have, as I said, this companion app experience. So the goal is going to be to bring in enough financing through these channels so that the company is well set for Chaos Agents' development all the way through its launch. And as I mentioned, not only are we developing a companion experience for Chaos Agents, but we are also looking at what does Popularium's portfolio look like of games beyond Chaos Agents? Because now that we have such a powerful game engine that we have developed, which basically is our own invention, we can use it to actually take a lot more concepts that Richard is either thinking about or he has already developed in the past and bring them onto the Popularium's game engine and use that to put stuff out into the world. So we hopefully have a lot of exciting announcements around that also coming, which essentially acts as a hedge around the time that it will take for us to get Chaos Agents to a point where it is on that growth path. But one way or the other, as a game studio, as a game company, we are not just looking at building one game, we are looking at building a portfolio, which Chaos Agents is 100% our anchor and our fulcrum. But we are also looking at how do we supplement that with revenue generating opportunities that are low cost for us, given the technology we have in hand, but are hopefully quite high return, given the market potential that a lot of Richard's creations have already had or can have. And our goal is that the company becomes self-sustaining by the time of retail launch in 2026, so that any further financing is something that we are using 100% to fuel growth, 100% to fuel additional value for our customers, as opposed to requiring that for the functioning of the company. So a big part of the financing goals is to also make sure that we are as financially independent as possible, especially given, as we know, in the games industry, these are not the best times. But we believe with the model that we've built with about $2 million over 3 years, we've built essentially something that is approaching, a high AA level, hopefully a close to AAA level live service game. We can do a lot more, both with the Republic financing as well as the Series A that we are now lining up.
Great. Thank you, Arka. That is super, super insightful. This might actually dovetail with one of the other questions that we've gotten from our Republic audience here. Let me read it to you. I love playing Magic the Gathering when I was younger, and I'm interested to invest, but I want to understand exactly what it is long term that I'm getting if I invest. You talked a little bit about, hey, this is Popularium, the company and the IP. Do you want to dive in a little bit more there just to clarify, hey, what are you really investing in and what are you expecting to get?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And I'll answer this in 3 parts and then also open it up back to you, Jon and Richard, for anything supplementary that you want to add here. So first and foremost, we want to distinguish between an investment in Popularium, the company, and quote unquote, an investment as far as buying or trading Chaos Agents within the game. As far as the latter is concerned, which is buying and trading Chaos Agents within the game, that's very much a function of the game itself. So it's not really that different from if you're playing a digital card game like Magic Arena or like Hearthstone, where you'll basically have some level of monetization that you will have to pay Popularium to get access to agents. But then after that, it's pretty much like any other game with one key difference. And that key difference is that we have made a commitment to our players that we are going to make available the technology so that they will have access to their Chaos Agents and their unique Chaos Agents, regardless of the status of whether Chaos Agents is a live game or otherwise. So we want to make sure that customers have confidence that when they are, handing over their precious dollars to us, whatever they're getting access to is actually something that they continue to have access to for as long as they want. Now, that is a function of the game itself and the customers who will be paying dollars to get into that economy, and that will be revenue for the company. In this particular case, we are looking at investment in Popularium itself as an equity holder. So Jon, yourself, I, Richard, we are all co-founders in the company. We hold equity in the company. And hopefully that equity is going to have non-trivial value in the near future, and will also have other rights and upside assigned to it. But for all intents and purposes, you are essentially getting access to shares in Popularium. Now, the vehicle that you're investing through, if any of our audience here is not aware, is called a SAFE, which basically translates to simple agreement for future equity. That is kind of the standard instrument that has been established over the past 10 years for investment in early stage companies, where the valuation of the company is not fully understood. So for example, once Chaos Agents is at the point that we are trying to get it to, where it has growing metrics, we kind of have this engine of people coming through the door, getting engaged, paying us money, sticking with us for a certain period of time. Once that loop is well understood, then it will be a much easier to say, okay, this is kind of the potential of this company, this is the valuation of this company, especially after we have revenue. But before then, and especially till we have sort of a major lead investor who is doing a price round, it is difficult to predict exactly what that valuation should be. So what the SAFE gives us an opportunity to do is set a valuation cap, which in our case is $20 million post money, which basically means that regardless, at a high level, means that regardless of what the actual valuation of our Series A round ends up being, the maximum valuation that all our seed investors will receive their equity at is $20 million post money. And that also includes our Republic investors. So the investment that you're making through Republic is basically being managed by Republic with Popularium. But at the end of the day, what is going to happen is, as our Series A closes, that will convert to actual shares that will be held by each of our Republic investors. So that is the investment that we are looking at now. And obviously, you realize that this is a very rare opportunity that is usually just reserved for traditional venture capitalists and other professional investors. In this particular case, we have found that there is a strong overlap between the community who wants to play Chaos Agents, who is excited to support Popularium, who's excited to be a part of Richard's vision, of Jon, your vision, given that a lot of our players are Magic players, are Hearthstone players, and essentially have shown us the appetite to actually support the company as an investor, as opposed to just as a player. Having said that, coming back to the other world, we are also looking to make a lot of interesting opportunities available to our Republic and other investors as players. As you know, we are already offering exclusive artwork as one of the benefits, perks for the Republic campaign. But beyond that, we are also going to have a lot of opportunities to do interesting things in game for our investors. And one of these companion applications that I was talking about, the one that we will be announcing first, is actually something that will actually be quite interesting, I think, to our Republic investor community also. So that is, at a high level, what you are getting is ultimately you are getting shares in Popularium, which is a private deal at this point of time, but is being made available to you basically through Republic. I hope that answers the question, Jon. If not, I'm happy to clarify further.
Great. I think those details are exactly what the community member was looking for when they asked that question. So thank you. So let's pivot a little bit and ask a question a little bit more on the game design side. This one also came from our community. And so I guess, Richard, what compelled you to make Chaos Agents an Autobattler rather than something like a more traditional real-time strategy game or something else?
Well, I wanted to do something new. I didn't want to do something which had already been done. Now, of course, there's lots of things in that area you can do, but I chose to go with Autobattler. So their Autobattlers are fascinating to me because I believe you can get the sort of community development which you get with paper games, where you actually have a chance to chat with people, trash talk, strategize, because you have this period where you're making decisions. It's timed, but it doesn't feel stressed, so you can actually think about things. And then you have this period of watching it unfold where you can have this community development. There's so much you can do with this principle of auto battling, which uh, but most auto battlers have fallen into a structure which was first set up by auto chess and later really, I think, came to a local maximum with Hearthstone Battlegrounds. Um, and so, yeah, I was just really excited about exploring this. I will add one other thing with regard to Auto Battler and uh, Battle Royale. The Auto Battler, one of the big issues in designing games with a lot of people is the issue of picking on each other and playing favorites and politics and so forth. And in board games, I spend a lot of effort trying to make it so that you have this direct interaction, but you don't have as much of this politics, as much of this politicking. And auto battlers are really marvelous for that because you don't pick who you're attacking. Your agent does. So you have this less direct line on how you're going to pick on other players, which and so this seemed like a huge opportunity because auto battlers to this point have been, even though a lot of people have played it once, each confrontation has been strictly 1v1. And I really wanted to see everybody getting into the same room and watching the chaos together. So that's where we are.
Fabulous. I love it. I'm obviously a big fan of the auto battler genre myself, having worked on Hearthstone Battlegrounds. So I always love this question because I think there's just so much potential in this genre that has yet to be captured, and we're trying to capture a lot of that on Chaos Agents. Let's jump to another question. This one's also a sort of game design question. Richard, one of the different things in Chaos Agents is that there are multiple winners at the end of a match instead of just one, your sort of typical chicken dinner winner in a battle royale. How did you decide on implementing 3 win conditions or multiple win conditions versus just one?
Uh, Yeah, that's a good question because it is a really, I think, unique part of this game. And I think it was actually first suggested by SCAF that you actually have and embrace 3 distinct winners. Um, One of the reasons I like battle royales is because it allows people to not win all the time. When you're playing a 1v1 game, it kind of feels like if you don't win half the time, it feels like every time there's something really kind of big at stake, even if it's just a game and even if you're playing casually. But battle royales give you permission to mess around because really, if you've got 50 people playing at once, say, you're expecting a 1 in 50 chance of winning, and so you can go in and play a lot. Just, I don't know, do what you want to do, and when the opportunity seems right, maybe go for the victory. That said, this idea of introducing more winners to this group seemed like uh, like it could really improve the excitement and the possibilities for how the game would unfold. It also plays very well with this idea of distinct agents because if you have one avenue for winning, then you have uh, limited the number of axes for what makes a good agent. With 3 different ways to win, you have lots of different ways which an agent can be good and be played, and ideally opportunities to pivot between them. And it should add a lot of dimensionality to how your agents are and how the play goes.
Great. Thank you, Richard. Yeah, I think that that initial idea of having 3 winners really resonated with me as well. Like it just gives you more design space to work with and gives players that aspirational hope of maybe I'll be one of those winners in a slightly bigger way, but still with the expectation of, hey, 50 people, I'm probably not going to win. So really, really love that. Um, let's jump over. You were talking a little bit about unique agents. One of the other questions we've gotten is, can you clarify the risks and opportunity with the long-term sustainability of the unique agent system? And in your mind, how do you plan to keep it still fresh for players for years to come?
Well, an analogy that I've been leaning on more heavily recently has been to sports. What keeps sports interesting is not the strategies which you approach them with in general. It's the most important thing with sports is the different capabilities of the players, their different talents, their different weaknesses, and how they line up. This is what really drives so much of people's anticipation of events and analysis of events afterwards, and fantasy leagues. Um, uh, and it is really almost unknown in paper games, and entirely unknown digitally. I mean, I guess with something like Madden. Um, but anyway, that's really, I think, the heart of what we are trying to hook into here with individual agents, where you get that sort of rich depth to what the units people are playing with are. In the long run, it's the same thing as with sports. In the long run, it's an evolving environment of different athletes that is constantly churning out new and interesting environments in which people are playing. Um, and so, we're going to be trying to construct those environments which bring out new communities of players, and new strategies, and new play experiences.
Great. Thank you, Richard. We're going to jump into a question that we got from one of our Discord members who couldn't be here today. And their question is, I've played a bit of the alpha and the game feels like it's really coming together nicely so far. What features from the upcoming roadmap are you most excited about? I know, Richard, maybe an opportunity for you to talk about here is we have a lot more skills planned to come out pretty soon. I'm also happy to jump in with the thing I'm excited about, and we should ask Arka as well. But why don't you take it away with skills or whatever it is that you're excited about?
Well, it is skills is certainly the top of the list. I am interested in getting more players in the game, so that's exciting as well. But skills is really what I've been most interested in. So in the long run, what we're looking for, as I'm sure most of you know, is something where each agent has a unique skill map, and that it is as exciting to look at as the Diablo skill chart when you play Diablo, or the Path of Exile build out there. I want people to look at these skill maps they have and be excited about the different things which they have access to, and how it differs from the things which the agents which they've run up against and the ones they've experienced in the past. The and as our tools increase, we'll be able to add more skills and hopefully get to this concept of the two-dimensional hex-based skill map. But the sort of skills which I'm looking forward to seeing are ones which actually change the environment on the map, like lay down areas that are booster areas or burning areas, getting pets, setting up sentry guns, and and so, yeah, there's every time you add one of these capabilities, you combinatorial explode the number of possible agents and the way those things interact with the other skills.
Amazing. Yeah, I'm super excited about skills as well. But since you talked about that a little bit, the feature or the feature area I'm most excited about as we continue to develop throughout the year is that I'm really excited about fleshing out our tooling to deliver on that unique agent look for our players. We've done some early R&D right now around recoloring of agents that's live in the alpha. This is how we're visually differentiating agents right now, but we haven't touched any of the work around combining equipment sets together in really exciting ways. And since equipment and building a 3D avatar is a mostly solved problem in our industry, we sort of deprioritized that work so that we could get some of the R&D around recoloring done first. But we're about to start down that whole work stream to get the 3D avatar and building your agent and combining equipment together in exciting ways and then recoloring it. And so I'm super excited about fulfilling the aesthetic uniqueness of the agent. And so that's the sort of feature area I'm most excited about that's coming down the road. Arka, is there an area you wanted to talk about here?
Yeah, actually, I was trying to make a, cut down my list to just one or two, but it's hard. So I'll just go through a few, which I know that we as a team are very excited about. First and foremost, as Richard mentioned, moving to supporting 20 plus players every match is going to be awesome. And along with that, we are bringing in terrain effects. We are bringing in sort of different types of challenge matches where essentially you might be on the same map, but the starting conditions are different. Very excited about those. Our engine and tooling actually are quite flexible and powerful in giving us access to that. Team play has been surprisingly interesting. That wasn't necessarily something that we were fully expecting. We always knew that there was a team component that could be interesting for Chaos Agents, but even in this early state where people can't really ask their agents to not really fire at their friends or so on, it has actually been a very popular game mode with our players in just ad hoc fashion. So putting in team support where people can actually like even do things like exchange agents with each other and so on is going to be very interesting. Another very early but very powerful metric we've seen is about a fourth, somewhere between 25 to 33% of our players, I don't know the exact number right now, are actually inviting their friends to come play with them and are sharing friend codes. So even with the lower end of 25% there, we kind of see a very interesting growth path from the team's perspective. So teams can be very powerful, and I think will be very powerful. Another much asked for feature is in-match wagers, both for people who are participating as well as people who are spectating. Creating a spectation mode is a big priority for us, and actually our tooling enables that fairly easily. So spectation and wagering kind of go hand in hand. So we're very excited about that. And then last but not the least, as I mentioned, there is the idea of the companion applications. Richard mentioned the analogy of sports, and actually that is something we are going to be embracing more and more across all of our touch points, including the fact that Chaos Agents, these battles are a sport within the universe of Chaos Agents. It's a combination of a commercial and entertainment activity, which also gives us a lot of narrative hooks. But beyond that, the marketing for the game, the idea that Richard just talked about is, athletes kind of being ultimately what makes sports interesting. From a marketing perspective, that also holds true, because if you think about it, so much of sports marketing is not necessarily about the strategy of the game as opposed to the athletes and the narratives around athletes and so on, which obviously is something we have uniquely, given the fact that every Chaos Agent is unique. So what are the interesting things we can do from a marketing perspective? So imagine that if ESPN were starting to launch and market a new sport, what would they do? Those are the questions we are asking ourselves. And we have a ton of skills coming, and along with that, visual effects, so that the expectation experience of the battle also increases. So anyway, as you can see, very excited about a lot of those things, and that's on top of the interesting skill map and other tooling features you guys talked about.
Great, thank you, Arka. We have a question from the webinar chat here from Andrew. His question is for Richard. What was the inspiration for the innovation behind Chaos Agents? And if it doesn't work, doesn't get to the scale you hope for, something like that, why would that be the case? In other words, what like fundamentally must be true for this game to work out?
Well, as mentioned a bit earlier, my fundamental drive for it was this idea of using um, uh, the Autobattler to make it so that you could have a lot of people play together without having a lot of picking on people and politicking. Um, this is this is something which is really valuable in paper games. It's hard to overstate how much time I've spent in games like King of Tokyo and like Robo Rally, thinking about ways to have it so you can directly interact with people and yet not pick enemies. Um, so what has to happen for it to work? Was that to be successful?
Yeah, to hit the sort of scale aspirations that we have.
Well, I think our early testing has proven that we don't even have to hit the scales for it to be interesting and exciting. I think there is a game there, even if you stuck with eight players, for example. But and I'm very much looking forward to seeing how this develops as we expand, because I think that begins to get into the magic area of the uh, battle royale more firmly. Um, but to me, this genre is about um, having it so that you understand moment to moment what's going on, but there's so much going on that you're constantly surprised. If you don't know what's going on, then you can't really be surprised. Just random stuff's happening, and uh, with this. So what I'm excited by is you begin to add more and more people. You're going to have more and more chaos, but locally you understand what's going on and can react to that situation and play what I think will be a unique game in that area. But the interaction between that and the global situation. I think will be very exciting, and that's what I'm looking forward to seeing.
I'll supplement Richard's answer with slightly commercial take on the on this particular question, which is from day one, we've been very clear about the idea that Autobattler and Battle Royale together is not necessarily a genre that people really understand. In fact, we couldn't even imagine what a game like that would look like. However, the thing we knew for a fact from Richard's experiences with Autobattler, with Jon's actual core development that he had hands-on with Hearthstone Battlegrounds, we knew that auto battlers were a very engaging genre. It was very accessible and easy to get people engaged with. However, it wasn't a genre that had broken through in commercial terms because it was very difficult to monetize. And we've talked a lot about this in our previous videos and seminars, and even on the Republic page, that a big part of what we had to figure out is what is the core monetization principle that is going to help Chaos Agents and Auto Battler Royale break through. And the core thesis there was that with the idea of unique agents, and a superhero that only one person could control, there would be that relationship between the player and the agent, that when they put that agent into the arena against 8, 16, 24, hopefully more players, they would want to customize that agent in a way that it would represent whatever ethos they want to communicate. And that's the same way, let's say, Fortnite or Battle Royale ultimately monetize is through the social aspect. So to answer the question for Andrew, which is what is the one thing that needs to be true? What needs to be true is that the auto battler royale genre needs to be as engaging as regular auto battlers, which by now we have very definitive proof that it is a very engaging format. And B is that people actually want to play with these unique chaos agents, and they want to play with them over a period of time, potentially swapping older agents out for newer agents, because that is then what gives us our consistent growth scaling path for monetization. Those two things being true makes the game a success, like at any particular level that we want. And then it just becomes a question of how big is the market, which according to our analysis is at least 10 times larger than what it is today, with Teamfight Tactics being the biggest game out there. So that's sort of what has been our focus, and also one of the reasons why we have launched a playtest for this game, almost at this point of time in a year and a half ago in prototype stage, because we wanted to get answers to those questions. One, is it an engaging format? B, do people want their own unique chaos agents?
Yeah, I think the only thing that I would add to that, to double down on what Arka has mentioned, is when we were talking about the game we wanted to make, we all really liked the gameplay characteristics of the Auto Battler. It's really accessible because of the lack of high twitch motor skill you need. Like, you don't need to be able to click super quickly and things like that. And some of us on the team, like myself, have like aged out of having a lot of that fast twitch muscle skill and or the time to compete with the teenage kids who have developed all of that. And so we loved the accessibility. It really felt like a pure play strategy game where it was about thinking and planning and guessing what your opponent's doing and how to counteract that. And so those characteristics of the auto battler genre were really exciting. And my early discussions with Richard and Arka about pulling in more of that auto battler, because more of that battle royale rather, so that it felt like a big grand melee. Like, we felt like that just doubled down on the fun and the experience and the social, to turn it from this like series of 1v1 battles into a more social shared experience with players. And so we think if on the design side, those things we can fulfill, that'll make the game fun and interesting. And as Arka has mentioned, on the commercial side, if we can sort of crack this nut by bringing in something that Richard had done most recently with a card game called Keyforge, this bringing in this concept of uniqueness that felt like it solved the commercial realities of making an independent game, and then paired with the exciting gameplay innovations, mashing those two genres together, we feel like there's a lot of potential to really blow this genre up, sort of like how League of Legends took the MOBA and made it bigger by shaving off a bunch of unnecessary complexity, and doubling down on the things that are fun and exciting. And so we're very exciting to continue to pursue this, and especially for those of you on the call who have already participated in the Republic campaign, and any of our investors, thank you for betting on us, because we think we have this potential to bring a great new genre combination to players and really fulfill on a pure play strategy experience that we think is going to be just really, really accessible and really fun and really awesome. And as Arka mentioned, a lot of the KPI we're seeing as we're bringing more and more players in have been very, very positive so far. So we're feeling good. As Arka mentioned, we have to start scaling that so that we get smarter and better about, hey, like, how is this working with bigger, broader audiences to know, hey, how much gas should we be pouring on this? I think we probably only have time for one more question here. Um, And so let me dig into a question that somebody in our community asked, a little bit more specific about the Republic campaign. In the recent alpha updates, we've seen some visual upgrades to the game, which is exciting. And on the Republic campaign, you mentioned that the money would be used for things like improving the map and visual polish and things like that. Since we've exceeded our initial fundraising goal, um, is there anything specific that we're thinking that we will do as Popularium for Chaos Agents now that that sort of fundraising goal, we've tripled it? What is new and exciting that you want to talk about?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I'm going to try and keep this brief so that maybe we can get one more question in after this. But we are so excited about the additional opportunities that the resources that we've gotten from Republic bring us. First and foremost, as John mentioned, we have a lot of work to do still in improving our visuals, UX, and so on. And that falls in two buckets. It falls one bucket is the environment and the map. So both improving our current map, creating more ways to create interesting terrain, things like environmental effects, night and day, and then potentially also looking at how to expand the map, because right now with 8 players it's just about big enough, but as soon as we double it or something like that, there will be we will need a bigger map. The second big bucket is, as John mentioned, we have a lot of work to do with the agents. We have very cool technology now built out to be able to assemble agents on demand that look significantly different from each other, not just by colors but also by armor, equipment, hair, etc. We need to both generate those assets as well as start the process of combining them, which is just, a fixed cost, so to speak, in terms of being able to just put dollars in and get art assets out. So the more that we have there, the more options we'll be able to put in front of our players. And then the third big bucket there is the UX improvements. So we are working with a very, very experienced and high quality artist and UX designer to help us upgrade our UX so that we go from what is functional but basic UX to something that is much more interesting to look at, as well as helps us scale towards these more complex skill maps that Richard talked about. In addition to that, we will also see that we will start supporting a lot more players simultaneously, and that comes with a huge infrastructural upgrade that we are working on that won't necessarily be visible to people, other than the fact that hopefully we'll have support a lot more players, there'll be spectators, the game is going to run smoothly, more smoothly, and so on. And then finally, as I mentioned, we also have this very interesting companion app experience that we are partnering with some very cool folks. So that's coming down the pike, and that can actually start generating revenue for us potentially even before early access. I'm not promising that, but it's definitely a possibility. So that is also something that's going to be helped. And then finally, what this gives us is just the ability to really do a much stronger Series A roadshow. Because not only is this giving us the opportunity to put together a better set of metrics and a narrative for the roadshow, but it's also showing future investors the interest that exists in the community, that we've gotten 3 times the amount that we asked for, and we had till very recently a $500 investment minimum, as opposed to the $20-ish price point that we'll be asking our eventual players. So that's a very strong signal there too. And then finally, last but definitely not the least, the marketing that we are doing with these bi-monthly events, with the whole idea of marketing Chaos Agents as a sport, that is also not necessarily cheap, because we have to experiment with what are the channels that are giving us the best, most effective cost per acquisition and the longest term engaged users. So the money that's coming through the door right now is actually helping us start those experiments a lot earlier. So if you're on Reddit and a couple of other channels, you might see Chaos Agents Alpha ads pop up here and there. So definitely give us some clicks and signups there if you haven't already. So a lot coming there, and really excited about the companion app. I'm almost tempted to say the name there, but we will have an initial announcement coming on May 10th there.
Great. Thank you, Arka. We have time for one last question, which just came in live from George here. I'm a proud international non-accredited shareholder from the country of Bermuda. My question is this: is this crowdfunding campaign round offering to investors, is it offering equity or revenue sharing in perpetuity? Can you really explain what exactly you're getting with the investment?
Absolutely. The very quick answer there is that it is an equity investment, and the vehicle there, as I mentioned earlier, is a SAFE, which basically is an instrument that is equivalent to equity, except that it actually converts to shares during the next price round. So for all intents and purposes, this is your opportunity as a non-accredited investor to actually participate in Popularium as an investor, to hold shares in Popularium, which otherwise would not be available to non-accredited investors. And that's one of the big reasons why we're doing this campaign. And if you watch the recording of this particular session, I go into a lot more detail earlier on one of the questions on exactly the structure of investment. And if you still have any questions, please post it on the Republic page. We are actually going through and answering all the remaining Republic discussion questions over the next couple of days.
Great. Thank you, Arka. I know Richard had to head out already. That's the last question that we had time for today. So thank you, everybody, for attending. Thank you for your smart questions. Thank you, Arka and Richard and Kyle and the rest of the Popularium team for taking this time to engage with our investor community.
Thank you, everyone. We truly appreciate your support. And for anyone who is still following us and hasn't invested, please consider making an investment within the next 48 hours. And if you have any remaining questions, please post them on Republic, and we will get back to you ASAP. Thank you again for all your support. We truly appreciate it.